Amir Harun. A lot of the older guys might know me by Abdullahi Nijizo. So, I'm part of the Harari Aid Taskforce. We're a group of youth, with the help of Najib, of course, who thought that we wanted to do our own part with the issues that are currently going on in Harar. So we put together a team, and we've been meeting up for the past few weeks. As Najib has mentioned, the first thing we did was write that letter and send it out to the government and see if we can at least make them aware of the current situation in Harar. And of course, we're going to continue to work on escalating the issue and making more people aware of it, and hopefully this event, at least what I'm planning on doing today, is making the youth. I know that a lot of the elders are aware of what's happening, but I've noticed that a lot of the youth aren't aware of what's happening in Harar. So a lot of the examples I'm going to be using in my presentation are going to be make it more tangible for you to understand exactly what's going on in Harar and give you some more physical evidence to what's happening. So I just have a few facts here that I just wanted to mention real quick. So Harar itself is a group, is pretty much has a population of 183,000 people. And the demographics kind of break down with 56% is Oromo, 22% Amhara. The Harari are actually only 8.5% or 8.65%. Then there's the Gorage with 4, Somali 3, and Tigray 1, Argoba 1, and then there's others about 1%. And we're actually registered, people don't know, we're actually registered under the World Heritage Site, under UNESCO. So that's something that we like to make them aware of. So it gives us more of a voice and makes them more, gives us more of an eye, basically. Okay, so before I actually start with the presentation, I want to give a small speech on the background of Harar, the history of Harar. Very brief for those who may not understand it or may not know it. Of course, it was written by one of our members. He's sitting over there. He's a very handsome man. His name is Abdullahi Sharif, or Abdullah Sharif. He's sitting right there. He's sitting away. So just start. So under various tribe names spanning vast areas of land, our people were dispersed, but they were still one people. We were known by our tribe names. Should I move? That's better. We were known by our tribe names: the Harla, the Gatur, or Gaturi, the Manasai, and there are a lot of other tribes as well, but those are the main ones I'm going to mention here. And we may have had different names, but we still had the same tongue. We were still one people. Our history is long, punctuated, and by fantastic events, like Awa Badr, Imam Ahmad, Amir Nur, and the Jalanko War. And there's a lot of other things that we can mention that you may not be aware of, but I'm not going to go that deep into it right now. And the Harari Genesis predates Sheikh Badr Omar Arida, Awa Badr, but the recounting of our history almost always begins with him. Of our many kings, Awa Badr is the second on the list, after Amir Harun. He came to Harar from Hijaz in a time of calamity for our people. Awa Badr provided a solution. He was able to reconcile and unite us, and so he became Awa Badr, the patron saint of Harar, the second king of Harar. After many centuries passed, Amir Nur entered the scene. Exhausted from a fierce war that shook the Horn of Africa and sent reverberations throughout the world, our people withdrew into the city of Harar. Thereafter, the Drugal was erected by Amir Nur for our people to seek refuge. While our kin faded into legend, we survived as Gay Usul, the people of the city, Harar. We forever became Harari, indelibly inscribed in the annals of history. Unfortunately, only we survived, and any Harari remnant outside the seat disappeared, with nary mention. Today we face a calamity. Not a calamity again, not much different from before. We will persevere and continue to persist as Hararis. The beginning of the Harari people in Harar is time immemorial, and we assure you our end is nowhere near. So the crisis in Harar. So the massive human rights violations that is prevalent in Harar State, that are currently going on in Harari State, towards the indigenous Harari people, our people, is currently and continues to manifest in several ways. And I'm just going to list out these several ways in the next few slides. So some of you may have seen this already, but this was actually the Al-Hakim Lodge, or Al-Hakim Lodge and Tour, but we usually call it the Al-Hakim Hotel. Many of you have probably stayed there when you've gone to Harar. So this place was actually ransacked by a faction of Oromo people trying to pretty much discourage the Harari people that currently live in that area. So you might have also heard of the environmental and health crisis that's currently going on in Harar. So there's a disruption of the water supply, and there's also preventage of the garbage disposal. You can see in the video there, you can click that video. This is what the streets of Harar looked like at one point. Thankfully, there was some work done to remove this garbage, but this is something that happened in our city, under our watch. And there are also destruction of crops and trees. And that affected up to 50,000 people. This is not only the Harari people. There are other people, other populations in Harar that are affected by this issue as well. One moment, please. Verbal and psychological abuse to our people. So they're beating and insulting our Harari people. They're sending verbal assault, like threats to the Harari people, telling them to not wear what they wear. Like all the stuff that you see all the women wearing here and some of the men, they would threaten you on the streets of Harar if they saw you wearing this. And they'll also prevent the Harari people from moving around. If they saw them, essentially like I mentioned, they would tell them to go home or even leave the city. And this is just a quote from one of those people that are spitting this type of rhetoric. They're pretty much telling the people that this is not their place in Harar. The Harar is just a city and there's no Harari people. So they want to lay claim to it at this point. And there's also attempts at ethnic cleansing. So you can see here that there are actually specific factions of Oromo people that are cataloging our Harari, where they live, where they work, and they're pretty much trying to induce fear within the Harari people to get them to leave or evict them from their own places and let them leave the city. People are also illegally occupying our land, and you've probably seen this video as well. I'm not sure if the sound will come through, but this is essentially one of the people of Harar where they were kicked out of their home, and their home was then occupied by the same people who kicked them out of it. If you want to see this video, you can just contact us. You probably just come up to me and ask me, but essentially this video is her recounting the fact that someone came to her home. Someone came into her home, kicked her out, and started occupying their own home, and she had to find another place to live. And some people are having to live on the streets at some point. They're also confiscating farmlands, as you've heard, and building homes on top of those farmlands. So they'll take the farmland from the Harari people and build the home on top of it. Can you hear that? All of that? It's all good. So as I mentioned earlier, there was the water crisis in Harar. And we actually got, the people that stopped the water from getting to the city actually tried to extort the people of Harar. And this letter essentially is asking them for, I think it was $10 million to pretty much get their water back to the city. So they're extorting the Harari people for something that's a basic need, or a basic necessity for every person in the city. So this is just to close it all off. So the Harari people, it's the Harari people and their heritage that is in jeopardy at this point. So this is why we're getting together. Sorry, I keep moving the mic. This is why we're getting together, and I like to see everyone here. I hope that we can do this more. Not only when Harar is in crisis, as someone has mentioned, and essentially we're doing our part. We're trying to see if there's something we can do that not only solves this issue, but stops any issues from occurring in the future.